So in today's video, I'm going to show you how to paint a cute little greenhouse illustration like this. The process is very simple and the results are always unique, and I think these would make for great greeting cards or as framed prints for your Etsy store. So the watercolor effect is coming from a paper texture and then the regular watercolor brush kit. And the first thing we need to do is create the background wash for the greenhouse. And I like to use the selection tool for that, set to rectangle. And I'll make a selection about the size and shape of the greenhouse. There we go. Next, I'm going to use the abstract round brush and then some kind of green tone like this. And I'm going to press very hard so it ends up lighter. And then as I go down, I'm going to do a lighter pressure just so it gets darker. And I'm going to fill it in like this. Next, I'm going to use the water blender brush at the bottom of the list. And at a pretty big size, I'm just going to go in there and carefully break up some of these hard edges and blend it a bit. And that looks pretty good. Next, I'm going to grab the eraser brush and I'm going to set it to the fine liner pen. And at a pretty large size, I'm just going to kind of erase the top here and give it an interesting edge texture. And now that the background is finished, I'm going to make a new layer above it, and this is where we're going to start painting the different plants. So for the plants, I'm just going to use the abstract round brush and the fine liner pen, and I'm going to kind of rough them out very, very simply. I'll make one example here, but then I'll just fast forward it through the rest of them. So I want to make sure some of my plants go beyond the edge. I personally think that looks good in the final result. In some cases, you might need to lay down a kind of a light background color, like this. And then later on, you can add a slightly darker version. This will increase the contrast. And then as a final step for this plant, I'm going to use the fine liner pen and add some kind of fine detail on each leaf. And I'm going to go through and add a bunch of random plants just using this basic process. And there we go, that looks pretty good. Any of these plants by themselves would just be so boring, but when there's like a lot of variety here, you can get away with simple designs. Next, I'm going to use some bright colors and the fine liner pen to add the very top of some potted plants here. So for me, I see these pots as a way of adding some unusual and different colors in here without necessarily having them to be plants. So at this point, everything is on two different layers. So the top one is all the plants and the bottom one here is the background. I'm going to merge those together so everything is on one layer. I'm going to use the eraser brush, again set to the fine liner pen, and I'm going to trim off the bottom edge here. And after that, I can do the base of the greenhouse with the abstract round, and then a kind of khaki color, a warm khaki tone. And just to make it a little more interesting, I'm going to do some very simple kind of like a brick or cobblestone pattern on it. And then the ends here, I'm just going to trim it back and smooth it out with the eraser again. Now this is definitely optional, but I think I want to paint a little hanging plant over here. And the hanging plant is really just that simple, and I did it all with just the fine liner pen brush. Next, I'm going to finish up this greenhouse by adding the black framework. And that's going to be on its own layer above everything. And I won't actually use pure black. I'm just going to use this really dark blue tone. For the brush, I'm going to use the fine liner pen again. And I'm just going to rough this all out. Keep in mind though that you can definitely choose any roof style that you want. In this case, I'm just going to do a simple pitched roof, but you could definitely do an arched one. And one thing that really helps is I'll make a line and then I'll hold the end of it, and you can see Procreate sort of snaps it into a straight edge. And I'm going to use this to do all the lines in the greenhouse. And once the framework is all done, I like to add a little line here as a door handle, and then also some sort of shape or decoration on the roof. So before we finish this up, I just want to show you one more trick. If I open the layers panel, you can see everything is on these two layers. Here's the framework, and then here's everything else. I want to make sure that layer is selected. Then I can use the freehand selection tool and just circle everything except the very bottom of the greenhouse. And with that selected, I can use the hue, saturation, and brightness to control the kind of hue and tone of the actual plants in the greenhouse. And you can actually get a pretty interesting look by playing with the hue slider. I think in this case, I'll shift it a little bit towards yellow so it looks warmer inside. And there we go. This simple greenhouse illustration is all done. And here's the final result. So if you're looking for a challenge, I recommend trying to paint different themed greenhouses. For example, like a desert one or ones with just flowers. You can also play around with the roof style, like by adding a curved roof or kind of a multi-faceted roof. And you can also add some more details around the outside, like potted plants, tables and chairs, a cat, anything that gives the illustration more interest and context. And that pretty much wraps it up. As always, if you think I've earned it, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thanks again for all your support, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.